Hello, and welcome to the second demonstration on ArcGIS Pro. The first thing we'll do, as in the first demonstration, is select another project template. I'll navigate to the Africa folder and open up this template called Africa Template. This is a template I've made previously. Click OK, and let's call this project MICO. CT. Okay. So it's downloading the Africa template from the online portal, and it'll now open it up in the map viewer. So, now, I want to create camera traps within the MICO National Park boundaries. I'd like these camera traps to be randomly placed, and I don't want camera traps to be placed within a 5-kilometer buffer zone from the exterior of the perimeter of the national park inwards. The first thing I want to do is get rid of all the rivers that are outside of the national park. And the way I'll do that is by using a clip feature. If we go to the ribbon along the top here and click on Analysis, click on Tools, and type in the tool Clip, then we have the Clip option. We could open it up and clip a single feature, but if you wanted to clip many features at once, let's say as well as rivers, you've got roads passing through the MICO National Park, you can right-click this clip feature and click on Batch, which means that I could simultaneously clip the rivers and the roads at the same time. But I only want to get rid of the rivers, so I'll click on the clip feature. The input feature will be the rivers, because these are the ones I want to edit. Template, MICO, template, river. The reason it says template next to it is because they belong to the template geodatabase folder. If I open up the template folder here, then you've got river and MICO. They belong to a folder I've created called template that includes the river and MICO. We've been through already, but in the databases catalog, you can see the different geodatabases. MICO CT geodatabase is the one we've created as part of our project when we created the project from the Africa template project that we downloaded from our portal. Now let's go back to the geoprocessing tab. The input features are rivers. We want to clip it by the national park boundaries, which is called MICO. And so let me show you in the contents here. If I deselect MICO, then that disappears. That's what we want to use to clip it with. So the clip feature shall be called MICO, and the output feature class, we will call it MICO River. Notice that I got rid of the entire directory there and then called it what I wanted. That's because if I click on it again, notice it's defaulted to a certain directory. In this case, the MICO CD geodatabase, which is the default geodatabase. We can ignore this XY tolerance and click Run. At first it appears as though nothing has happened, but then if I deselect river in the templates feature classes, notice that the only rivers we're left with are the rivers within the MICO National Park boundaries. This is because we've just created it through the clip feature. This output feature class has created a feature class called MICO River, and it's now in the contents page. Notice here, if I deselect the MICO River, then the rivers within it go. If I deselect it and then select the rivers from the Africa template that we downloaded initially, then all of those rivers appear. But we don't need these rivers anymore, so we can actually remove this from the map view entirely. Let's reselect the MICO rivers. If we can get rid of this geoprocessing pane now as well. If we go to the catalog, we can see in the databases We have the MycoCT geodatabase, which is the project geodatabase that was created when we created this project from the Africa template, and the Africa template geodatabase. Let's expand them both. In the Africa template, we've got the rivers that we just removed. Notice, if I add them back, these are the rivers we just got rid of. Now let me remove that again. We've also got roads features that we didn't have added to the template initially, but were in the geodatabase that we downloaded alongside the template. But we don't want those either. And so I'll actually delete them from the geodatabase altogether. And UTM-MICO. UTM-MICO is the national park boundaries, except when we downloaded the geodatabase and downloaded the template with the geodatabase alongside it, that is, the template already had the river and the MICO feature classes added into the contents that could be viewed on the map pane view. I had already, when making the template, renamed the UTM-MICO feature class to simply MICO, and that's why it shows up as a different name. But moving on. Now we've clipped the rivers between the MICO National Park boundaries. We want to create a fishnet. Usually, to do the amount of things such as create a fishnet with random points and a buffer zone, you'd have to go through various different geoprocessing tools to achieve such a feat. But one good thing about ArcGIS Pro is that you can create models. So, if I go on to Insert, or rather, if I go on to Analysis, there's an option here to go onto ModelBuilder. Let's select it. You have a blank page initially, but if I go on to Tools here and type in Clip again and insert the clip, here you have Clip. Now this is the tool that we used before in order to clip the rivers. This model builder is so that you can create complex models with lots of different tools involved that can be used by anyone in your organization that has access to it. Let's get rid of this model builder view. I don't want to save the changes. Go back to the catalog, and on the catalog page, open up the toolboxes database. We can delete the model because that's the one we just created. We don't need that one. But here are two models that I've already created in the past. If we right-click this and go to Edit, we can see that the square boxes signify the tools, and the circular boxes are the inputs and parameters for those tools. This fishnet clipper will create a fishnet with uniform points within the center of each grid cell, and with a buffer to determine when the points will begin from the perimeter of the fishnet, or rather from the polygon. But if I right-click this fishnet clipper random, then I've added a new couple of tools on the end here. This makes it so that the points generated within the grid cells are randomly distributed. I won't go over how I've made this in this demonstration, but it is very simple. It requires a lot of trial and error, but once you get the hang of it, it's a very simple thing to do. So let's click off of these now, and let's use one of these. Let's use the fishnet clipper random. Double click it to open up the geoprocessing pane. And so fishnet extent, go on the information here. I've edited the metadata for this tool, so it displays certain information along the side as to help any user with the definition of the parameters to be put into this tool and produce the desired output. So on the fishnet extent, if we go on information, then it defines the extent to which the square fishnet will be created. It's recommended that the polygon which will be used for clipping the fishnet. Okay, so the polygon I want to use to clip the fishnet is the MICO National Park boundaries. For the cell width, let's say 5,000 by 5,000 meters. Geometry type, polygon. It could be a polyline, but for this demonstration, I'm keeping it as a polygon. The clipping feature, that's the same, the Micro National Park boundaries. The reason you select this twice is because the fishnet extent defines an extent for the fishnet which will be developed as a square on your page. The clipping feature clips that square into a defined polygon. In this case, we want the extent to be only as big as the Micro National Park boundary, and we want the clipping feature to be the Micro National Park borders. It's important that you use the clipping feature and fishnet extent as the same as the clipping feature, as otherwise the buffer doesn't quite work properly. And so that's why these options are here, and you select them twice. So, name the clipped fishnet. So this will be the name of the fishnet created within the national park boundaries. For this instance, let's just call it fish, and name the random labels. Let's call these camera trap. Now the label removal method, this could be an absolute value or a percentage of the input. So if we say 50% of all labels that are generated uniformly in this fishnet are removed, and the label buffer distance in kilometers for the units will be 5 kilometers. So there will be a buffer of 5 kilometers before the labels, that is the point features, are generated. You'll see what I mean in a moment. However, I'm going to make that minus 5 kilometers because otherwise the buffer will be created from the perimeter of the polygon to going out. If I put it as minus 5, then the points begin to be created from the perimeter in. So let's run this tool. We can get rid of this geoprocessing pane and tidy up the catalog pane. So, notice a fishnet has been created within the polygon that we defined as Micro National Park. Furthermore, points have been created within the polygon. These would usually be created uniformly across the polygon, but we've set a buffer distance of minus 5 kilometers, and so they don't begin until roughly minus 5 kilometers away from the perimeter of the shapefile of Micro National Park. Notice that there are no points around the edges of the park. We've also removed 50% of the points that would have been created, and these have been randomly removed. This is an example of the kinds of tools that you can make in ArcGIS Pro from various other tools, an amalgamation. As you can see, we've got the feature class of fish, and we've got the feature class of camera traps in the contents page. So now we've made this feature class of fish, we can get rid of the Micro National Park feature that came with the template that we downloaded. So let me remove that from the contents. Notice that the label has been removed with it, but that's okay. So, if I hold down Control, I can click on this arrow in the content and it closes all of them at once, which is quite a useful little feature to know. The same is also true if I click the tick button here. It takes everything off, adds it all back on. A very useful thing to know. There's nothing stored within this template folder now, as initially it had both of the feature classes that were stored with the template that we downloaded in order to make the project. So I'll remove this folder too. Now we have the fishnet, we have the micro rivers that we clipped inside of the fishnet, inside of the polygon, and the camera traps.